The social crisis in China is worsening, with protests erupting across the country. Millions of Peng Lifa are rising up, and the CCP's greatest fear has begun to materialize. Do you want to rebel? The people's revolutionary forces are taking shape. Discontent is spreading across all social classes, and China stands on the brink of an explosion. Is the PLA also moving toward rebellion? Xi Jinping's deepening paranoia and harsh control are fueling growing dissatisfaction within the military. Will 300 million people lose their jobs? Under the shadow of the U.S. China trade war, factories are shutting down, business owners have fled. A wave of mass unemployment is surging across China. Suspected Chinese chemical imports trigger disaster. Explosion at Iranian port leaves 40 dead and over 1,000 injured. Welcome back to New Century, where facts matter and every story is told with integrity. The social crisis in China is worsening, with protests erupting across the country. Millions of Peng Lifa are rising up, and the CCP's greatest fear has begun to materialize. Let's dive into this wave of unrest shaking China. The Chinese Communist Party is confronting challenges at home and abroad, with conditions eerily reminiscent of the 1989 Tiananmen Square protests. Economic decline, soaring unemployment, and an unwinnable trade war with the U.S. have pushed the nation to the edge. The party, sensing the threat, is growing anxious. On April 25th, Ni Bangwen, executive director of the Communist Youth League's Theory Center, wrote urgently in People's Daily that the party must tighten its control over the youth. Past uprisings, like the 1989 protests, Hong Kong's youth movement, and the 2022 White Paper movement, challenged the party's authority. Now, the 2022 Sitong Bridge protest by Peng Lifa in Beijing has ignited a nationwide spark. Though suppressed, Peng's act continues to inspire defiance. While the party may silence one Peng Lifa, the rise of millions like him is its worst nightmare. On April 15th, a striking image spread online. 3 large white banners with red text hung from an overpass near Chengdu's Chedianzi bus station. Lit by streetlights, they declared, "Without political system reform, there is no national rejuvenation. The people do not need a party with unchecked power, and China does not need anyone to dictate its direction. Democracy is the direction." Chinese-Australian legal scholar Yuan Hongbing told the Epoch Times that the banners stayed up for 2 hours before a patrolling officer noticed them. Surprisingly, instead of ordering their removal, superiors told the officer to preserve evidence and protect the scene. The banners remained for another 30 to 40 minutes, nearly 3 hours total before being taken down, a sign of the party's sluggish response. Initially, the banner hanger's identity was unknown. On April 25th, Du Wen, a former Inner Mongolia government official now in Europe, revealed it was Mei Shilin, a 27-year-old from Yongfu Town, Muchuan County, Sichuan. Du told the Epoch Times that Mei sent him a 13-second video after hanging the banners on April 15th, along with photos and his ID. In an email, Mei said he planned the act for over a year, driven by oppression as a Chinese citizen, ready to sacrifice everything to speak out. Du urged Mei to flee to visa-free countries and offered rescue assistance, but Mei chose to stay in China. Their last contact was at 11:14 p.m., Beijing time on April 15th, when Du sought details to amplify the news. Since then, Mei has been unreachable, silent for over 10 days despite Du's emails. Based on his experience aiding dissidents, Du believes Mei is likely imprisoned and in serious danger. He warned that only global attention could protect Mei from secret execution or brutal treatment in a psychiatric facility. Netizens have dubbed Mei the Sichuan Peng Lifa. China's economic struggles have tightened the party's control, fueling widespread discontent and ongoing protests. The Sitong Bridge incident on October 13th, 2022, remains a pivotal moment. Peng Lifa hung banners proclaiming, "No nucleic acid tests, we want food. No lockdowns, we want freedom. No lies, we want dignity. No cultural revolution, we want reform. No leader, we want votes. Be citizens, not slaves." and strike, boycott, and remove the dictator and national traitor Xi Jinping. Known as the Beijing-Sitong Bridge incident, Peng's fate is unknown, but his courage sparked a wave of anti-CCP banner protests. On February 21, 2023, the night before the party's two sessions, slogans reading "Overthrow the Communist Party, Overthrow Xi Jinping" were projected onto Wanda Plaza's exterior in Jinan, Shandong. The activist, Chai Song, told New Tang Dynasty TV in February 2024 that Peng Lifa inspired him. While traveling in Central and South America, Chai remotely activated a projector in his Jinan apartment to display the slogans, hoping to show that the Chinese people are distinct from the CCP. On June 3, 2023, a woman climbed a tower near Beijing's Bird's Nest Stadium, waved an American flag, and scattered Declaration of Independence leaflets, earning her the title of a heroine and the second Peng Zaiju. On September 27, 2023, "End the Monarchy" appeared on a pedestrian bridge on Zhongshan Road in Shijiazhuang. On July 30, 2024, university student Fang Yirong hung Sitong Bridge-style banners on a bridge in Xinhua County, Lodi, Hunan, and broadcast through a loudspeaker, "We want freedom, democracy, and votes. Strike, boycott, and remove the dictator and national traitor, Xi Jinping." A bold act that could inspire more protests across China. Experts warn that if the U.S. China trade war escalates, China's unemployed population could hit 60 million this year. Unemployment is already severe, with some estimates suggesting rates over 50%. With 12 million college graduates entering the job market in 2025, social unrest driven by joblessness is a ticking time bomb, ready to ignite millions of potential sparks. As protests multiply and defiance grows, the Chinese Communist Party faces its greatest challenge yet. Can it quell this rising tide, or is China on the verge of a historic upheaval? Do you want to rebel? The People's Revolutionary Forces are taking shape. Discontent is spreading across all social classes, and China stands on the brink of an explosion. Public discontent in China has been growing in recent years, with people expressing dissatisfaction with the Chinese Communist Party in various ways. From humor and satire to outright criticism, online voices have shifted from subtle hints to direct expressions, forming a silent wave of resistance. A Douyin video titled "Do You Want to Rebel?" went viral, triggering a flood of responses from netizens and highlighting this trend. According to reports, the clip appears to be taken from a historical video explaining the Wuchang uprising. It begins with the narrator shouting, "Do you want to rebel?" followed by an explanation that this was what a platoon leader yelled at soldiers during the incident. One soldier responded, "Rebel it is, then," before firing a shot, leading other soldiers to follow suit, thus sparking the Wuchang uprising. Viewers immediately grasped the hidden meaning behind the video's opening question and responded in the comments with "yes" and "absolutely." Screenshots show a large number of users flooding the screen with affirmative responses via bullet comments. While Chinese authorities swiftly deleted sensitive comments, the video itself remained online, garnering tens of thousands of likes and shares. In mainland China, these seemingly borderline expressions of dissent have become increasingly common, sometimes carrying clear symbolic meanings. In December 2024, when news broke that Syrian rebels had captured Damascus and Assad had fled to Russia, Chinese netizens asked each other, "Are you ready to freeze?" A homophone for "Are you ready to act?" in Chinese. The overwhelming response was "ready to act." Though disguised through wordplay, the underlying message was unmistakable. This phenomenon is not accidental. It reflects long-building frustration within Chinese society, seeking an outlet. Even if open dissent is not possible, people find ways to express their hope for the downfall of the Communist Party through coded language online. Some have published anonymous anti-Communist Party manifestos, openly denouncing Marxism, the ideology of the bearded man, and vowing to bring the party to justice. These reactions reveal that despite the party's efforts to suppress dissent, the people's will to resist has not been extinguished. In fact, it is growing stronger. Commentator Li Yue from Vision Times pointed out that history shows regimes do not collapse due to external attacks, but from internal decay and loss of public trust. He argues that the Communist Party is at this dangerous tipping point. While it maintains a powerful state apparatus, the shift in public sentiment is already beyond its control. The Wuchang Uprising was initially a small act of defiance by a few soldiers, yet it ignited the revolution that overthrew the Qing dynasty. Similarly, Chinese society today is at a boiling point, merely waiting for the right spark. When more and more people openly declare online, "Yes, I want to rebel," it is not merely a joke. It is a prelude to the collapse of a regime. The people have awakened, and China is poised for a historic upheaval. So, what do Chinese people really think? In 2020, a netizen named Feng Hua posted a detailed analysis on Pinkong exploring the mindset of Chinese people. The article suggested that few within the system desire change, except those frustrated within it. Forget officials for a moment. Consider ordinary grassroots staff or petty officials, it stated. Many invest heavily to enter the system, securing decent wages and respectable social status, and they feel content with their lives. Asking them to risk it all for a revolution isn't realistic. High-ranking officials, even less likely. Among entrepreneurs, some radicals contemplate revolution, but most won't act unless officials destroy their businesses beyond survival or seize their assets without cause, though such cases aren't the majority. Other entrepreneurs oppose revolution entirely. If chaos erupts, the yuan could become worthless. Property values might plummet to zero, and all their wealth could vanish. Then there's a third group. Entrepreneurs resentful of prolonged government pressure, but not yet ready for revolution. They'd prefer replacing the current leadership with an enlightened figure who benefits them while preserving the system. If a revolution occurs, they'd support it but wouldn't lead it, lacking firm resolve. The middle class, however, is likely the group most eager for change internally. Once they've accumulated enough wealth for a decent life, what they crave most is fairness, justice, and rights. On one hand, they don't possess vast fortunes, so the fear of losing everything in a revolution isn't overwhelming. On the other, they aren't solely driven by wealth. Most are well-educated and aware, yearning for solutions to social problems and systemic reform instead. The poor are a curious mix. Many lack judgment and independent thinking, having been brainwashed into staunch supporters of the regime. It's both laughable and tragic. They're the system's victims, yet fiercely defend it, especially the older generation. Meanwhile, some at society's bottom are furious. With no house or family, they're barefoot and fearless, the greatest source of instability. Feng Hua believes that, overall, as long as the economy and jobs don't collapse entirely, people won't be desperate enough to revolt. At most, they'll grumble and carry on. The key lies in the economy and employment. If those crumble and don't recover for an extended period, the poor, middle class, and even small business owners could go bankrupt, default on mortgages, and lose homes to banks. Trouble would follow. These groups all have reasons to rebel, and with someone stoking the fire, a real blaze could ignite. In fact, China's economy is deteriorating rapidly, with no recovery in sight. Rising unemployment, companies shutting down, a collapsing real estate market, foreign firms exiting, and local governments drowning in debt. At the same time, societal unfairness continues to worsen, prompting some to propose forming militia groups. On January 2, 2025, a senior student at Pucheng Vocational Center in Weinan, Shanxi, died under mysterious circumstances. Rumors claim he was beaten to death by 7 classmates after bullying them. The victim's family and local relatives protested at the school, but faced police suppression, which infuriated the community. Tens of thousands broke through blockades, gathering at the vocational center to demonstrate. According to a February 8th post by ex-platform user Luo Xiangyue, messages from Pucheng residents revealed they had formed a militia self-defense group during the protest. Once assembled, the militia planned to overpower the police, detain officials, and hold new elections. However, commentator Kai Chengkun later reported that Shanxi Province Party Secretary Zhao Yide allegedly issued an urgent directive to crush the unrest. Authorities also rushed to promise the deceased's family 2 million RMB, about 275,000 USD, in compensation to hush the matter quickly. Though the Pucheng protest was ultimately suppressed, the tactics the people employed were unprecedented. One netizen remarked that if a small country or tyrannical state sparks a conflict now, this nation could swiftly descend into chaos and collapse. Another argued that the only way out for a tyranny is a complete overhaul. Eradicate the communists and start anew. Some netizens, however, are skeptical, wondering if this protest, like the White Paper movement, will just be a fleeting outburst. G.E. Peng, a longtime observer of China's rights defense movements, told Radio Free Asia that online videos of the Shanxi incident showed most participants were young people, unemployed youth turning to violence. He believes this differs from the White Paper movement, which was largely driven by employed youth or those from major cities. He's worried that young people in smaller county towns joining such a mass event reflects today's dire economic conditions, suggesting that group incidents like this could multiply in 2025. Veteran media figure Yan Chenggu wrote on Facebook on January 12th that society is dominated by petty tyrants controlling every facet of life, leaving the masses in widespread hardship and mental distress, the shared root of the protesters' fierce resistance. Enduring silently forever means endless suffering, he wrote. One day the people will rise with swords drawn to renew the nation. Is the PLA also moving toward rebellion? Xi Jinping's deepening paranoia and harsh control are fueling growing dissatisfaction within the military. The wave of public dissatisfaction isn't just among ordinary citizens. Reports suggest even the People's Liberation Army is showing signs of discontent. Since taking power, Xi Jinping has aggressively purged the military, removing countless high-ranking officers, a move that sparked deep resentment among the ranks. On February 8th, China's Ministry of National Defense announced new regulations on the management of online military information dissemination, set to take effect March 1st. These rules ban discussing undisclosed historical military events and figures online. They also prohibit any group or individual from using online platforms to incite military personnel, veterans, or former civilian staff to engage in illegal gatherings, protests, or demonstrations. Commentator Li Yue noted that these regulations reveal more than a fear of secrets leaking to foreign powers. They point to the Communist Party's deeper worry about internal discussions, challenging military history and leadership authority. This highlights Xi Jinping's intense anxiety over maintaining ideological control within the military. In a normal country, debates about depoliticizing the military or making it a state-run institution would be fair game. In China, they're strictly forbidden. Xi fears that ideological shifts could lead soldiers to question the party's absolute control over the armed forces, or consider whether the military should serve the nation, not the Communist Party. Such thoughts could directly threaten the foundation of his rule. Late last year, the Chinese military newspaper published an article titled, "Promoting Strict Governance to the Lowest Levels and Establishing a Long-Term Norm." It stressed military discipline and criticized violations like climbing over the wall, a term for bypassing the Great Firewall to access restricted sites. That phrase grabbed attention. Analysts suggest the newspaper's explicit mention of firewall circumvention shows it's widespread in the military, with soldiers seeking out restricted information. Given Xi's ongoing high-pressure purges within the PLA, an internal crisis could be looming. The widespread practice of bypassing the Great Firewall is a major concern for Xi. Despite China's sophisticated internet censorship, many soldiers find ways to access external information. This is a critical vulnerability for the party. If troops start learning the truth about the outside world, they might question their role, realizing they're not serving the nation but protecting a small elite. Historically, the Communist Party itself came to power by rallying the military to overthrow the previous government. That history makes the party acutely aware of the danger a disillusioned military poses. Xi's draconian information controls reflect his extreme insecurity. Despite purging nearly all political rivals and consolidating near-absolute authority, he's obsessed with eliminating unstable elements. This paranoia has driven him to tighten control over every sector, speech, academia, media, the internet, and now deeper into the military. Ironically, this excessive control could weaken the PLA's combat effectiveness. Military morale and unity rely on more than discipline and obedience. They need ideological cohesion and shared values. If soldiers feel trapped in a web of lies and see dissent silenced, that pressure could build into outright resistance. If external or internal crises hit, like economic collapse, diplomatic conflicts, or domestic unrest, pent-up frustration in the military could turn into action. That's exactly what Xi fears most. History shows that regimes relying heavily on repression and censorship often signal their decline. Xi's intensifying restrictions may not reflect confidence in his authority, but rather deep anxiety about his precarious position. As discontent simmers in the PLA, could China's military become the spark that challenges the Communist Party's rule? Will 300 million people lose their jobs? Under the shadow of the U.S. China trade war, factories are shutting down, business owners have fled. A wave of mass unemployment is surging across China. Let's examine the situation in China as the tariff war escalates. One blogger laments, "My family has 3 unemployed college graduates and 2 young children. I'm searching for a job in Tianjin. My sister worked in Beijing for 3 years but is now jobless and looking for work in Zhengzhou. She's been searching for 2.5 months without success. My brother worked in Hangzhou for 2 years, but he can't find a job in Zhengzhou either. We're looking nationwide, but nothing suitable has come up. How is the national unemployment rate of 5% even calculated? It feels like our entire family is unemployed." As the U.S.-China tariff war intensifies, China's economy faces unprecedented challenges. Factory closures, rising unemployment, and sluggish consumption have severely impacted the lives of many ordinary families. Another blogger sighs, "It feels like we can't hold on much longer. I've been stuck in this situation for ages, just waiting and waiting. With 2 kids' tuition, their food and clothing, and household expenses, my husband has no income and still asks me for money. I'm overwhelmed and don't know what to do." One commenter exclaims, "Can you believe it? In Huizhou, hundreds of business owners are disappearing every day. Yesterday, a client who's run a toy factory for 15 years drove me at 3 a.m. to see his factory. An entire 3-story assembly line was deserted with only a security guard playing a puzzle game. Even scarier, tens of thousands of business owners in Huizhou are teetering on the edge of survival, with orders plummeting by 60%. Other netizens report that many industries are struggling. Factories are closing rapidly, and even when workers find jobs, they're often on a work 4 days, rest 3 schedule, earning monthly salaries of just 2,000 to 3,000 won, approximately 412 USD, barely enough to cover basic living expenses. The combined impact of 3 years of pandemic lockdowns and the tariff war has led to plummeting exports, lost orders, and a declining economy. Many export-dependent factories have been forced to shut down. Some factories delay wage payments, and owners have even fled. U.S. President Trump recently stated that he is working with China to seek a fair deal, while Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent described the current situation as nearing a U.S. China trade embargo. Major foreign trade hubs along China's coast are experiencing a clear wave of production halts. One blogger shares, "You might not believe it, but in Shenzhen, many factories are on the brink of collapse and will fail one after another. Why? High rents, overcapacity, a sharp drop in foreign trade orders, and Trump's policies." Renowned financial commentator Chen Shuting recently noted that while China's dependence on U.S. exports seems to have decreased, there is a clear trend of transshipping through third countries, masking the real risks. She warned that large-scale production halts in export enterprises in key trade hubs like the Yangtze River Delta and Pearl River Delta are already underway. Many business owners remain in a wait-and-see mode, but if the U.S. high tariff policy persists, a wave of export manufacturing bankruptcies is expected to begin in June, turning the production halt wave into an unemployment crisis, with order losses potentially becoming permanent. Observers note that factory closures have reduced incomes, weakened consumer spending, and suppressed domestic demand, further deteriorating the economic environment. Young people are trapped in fierce involution competition, and even highly educated individuals cannot escape unemployment. Analysts predict that 2025 could bring the worst unemployment wave in history. Data shows that the employment rate for college graduates this year has fallen below 55%. Even more alarming than not finding a job is that many positions are quietly disappearing. This year's government work report from the Chinese Communist Party mentioned for the first time the need to strictly control the scale of publicly funded personnel, signaling a clear contraction. Moreover, technological advancements are accelerating job losses. AI can generate hundreds of contracts overnight, rapidly replacing traditional legal assistant roles. Bank front desk services are increasingly virtualized, and manufacturing workers face widespread layoffs. Even white-collar iron rice bowl jobs are no longer secure. Despite the Chinese authorities' attempts to ease pressure through stimulus policies, the job market's downturn is unlikely to end soon. Discussions on the social platform X reflect public anxiety, with some netizens claiming that the national unemployed population has exceeded 300 million. While this figure cannot be verified, pessimism is spreading throughout society. And many people are now forced to leave their jobs due to layoffs, accumulating heavy debts. Some are drowning in debt due to low wages and are on the verge of defaulting. Suspected Chinese chemical imports trigger disaster. Explosion at Iranian port leaves 40 dead and over 1,000 injured. On April 26th, a massive explosion struck Shahid Rajai Port, Iran's largest commercial port, located near the Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's petroleum trade passes. The death toll has climbed to 40, with over 1,000 people injured. More than 24 hours after the incident, fires continue to rage. Sources suggest the explosion may be linked to a shipment of chemicals used to produce missile fuel transported from China. Iranian state television reported that, due to choking smoke and spreading air pollution, all schools in Bandar Abbas, the capital of Hormozgan province, have been closed, and offices have been shuttered to allow authorities to focus on managing the emergency. The customs office at Shahid Rajai Port issued a statement via state television, indicating that the explosion likely originated from a fire in a warehouse storing dangerous chemical substances. According to the Associated Press, the British maritime security firm Ambry revealed that 2 Chinese vessels delivered chemicals used to manufacture missile fuel to Shahid Rajai Port in March this year, intended to replenish Iran's missile stocks depleted by attacks on Israel. Ambry noted that ship tracking data showed a vessel carrying ammonium perchlorate, a key component in missile propellant, navigating near Iran in March. The explosion may have been triggered by improper handling of these chemicals. Iran has not yet acknowledged receiving missile fuel components from China. Thank you for spending your time with us here at New Century. If you value clear, independent reporting, we invite you to subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments, and be part of the conversation. Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and take care.